This is Southern Cross News with Joe Palmer.
Staff at the Mowbray Hotel have been left shaken after two armed men robbed the venue last night. Police say the men were wielding an axe and a large knife and jumped the counter of the hotel and struck a male employee to the head. It's understood the pair stole cash before fleeing the scene. The victim suffered minor injuries. Witnesses or anyone who saw a white Holden VN ute at the scene is asked to come forward. Tasmania's casino workers are threatening to disrupt major events in the coming weeks as they vote to take industrial action. Federal Group has proposed a 1.8% pay rise, but the union is seeking 3%. Workers say the pay rates aren't keeping pace with the cost of living, but Federal says its proposal is in line with the local economy and is well above the Hospitality Award.
It's been a very long negotiation process. Through this process, the casinos have made one single wage offer of 1.8%, which is completely unacceptable. Members feel this is incredibly insulting to the hard work that they do.
United Voice says 90% of its members have voted to take industrial action, which could include strikes. Federal says it will work to ensure the dispute doesn't impact customers. The state opposition is accusing the government of misleading the public on new housing stock. Despite handing over the keys to properties in Warrane a month ago, only one unit has been filled.
Another set of keys for two new social housing units in Warrane.
Thank you. Beautiful house. Someone's going to be very happy.
They'll house Tasmanians waiting on the Housing Priority Register. More than 2,000 people at priority status of the 3,500 seeking social housing.
We do have people that have been offered this property already, and we will be signing leases with those clients over the next week or so.
It's going to be informed by our experience of building properties like this one, what's worked and what's matched the need on our priority waiting list.
A promise to have the leases signed in coming weeks. Similar units were opened by the Minister a month ago. Today their occupancy was unclear.
I'd have to ask the Housing Tasmania people.
Last week he told the Parliament that they would be occupied by the end of the week. Well, some 4 weeks later, they remain to be occupied.
The new units that have been opened at Warrane, Housing Tasmania has advised me that the two units have been offered to tenants.
Southern Cross understands one unit has recently been filled. The opposition accusing the Minister of a good news spin campaign as distressed homeless Tasmanians watch properties sit empty.
There are two new buildings sitting there vacant while the rain comes down, while the weather conditions deteriorate as we head into winter, and people are sleeping in tents.
Once the builder hands it over to us and we're satisfied that the quality of the homes are what they should be, then we can have tenants move in very soon after.
How soon is now ambiguous. Colony 47 doing what they can to offer shelter in wild weather.
Today we'd be looking at things like what shelter accommodation is available for those people, and that is available at times.
The times it's not is another night sleeping rough. Jacqueline Robson, Southern Cross News.
Tasmania's student retention rates are increasing, with an extra 150 pupils staying in high schools this year. There are now almost 690 students studying in schools that have extended to years 11 and 12. It's bringing the retention rate to 70%, with almost 60% completing their Tasmanian Certificate of Education.
You can only ask an individual student, or indeed their families, their communities. We're reducing the barriers to further education, and that's a great thing.
What we want to see is that they're getting quality education, and we haven't seen data around how many of those have attained an ATAR, how many of them are actually getting qualifications that will help them go on to university, how many of them are going to be able to go on and get an apprenticeship.
An evaluation of the government's high school rollout is currently underway. There is increasing pressure on the state government to lock in a funding deal with monofoma organisers to ensure the event moves to Launceston permanently. Plans to relocate the Summer Festival north were announced last year, but organisers say it can't go ahead without government support.
The monofoma curator pitching the festival's move north to tourism experts, but it's a sell yet to pay off on the state government.
Just heard from Brian Ritchie that he thinks the Premier must have sent their proposal to Antarctica because it's being progressed at a glacial pace.
Will Hodgman was happy to get in on the action at Launceston Mofo's taste test in January. Now,
we're currently now in negotiations, discussions with the organisers as to what the future might look like.
Those discussions have been ongoing since the move was announced last July. Organisers are pushing ahead, but they want $8 million over 4 years to help make the relocation permanent.
So the Premier does need to indicate, is he going to back Launceston to host Monofoma next year, or is he going to walk away and leave Launceston without this iconic event?
We've increased through our election commitments and will do so in our budget, our funding support for major events to bring more people into the state.
Exactly how much would go to Mofo remains unclear.
It's taxpayers' funds, so they've got to go through a process, but this is more than just an event. I think for Launceston this is actually the sort of thing that you do when, like, you set up Dark Mofo in the middle of winter for Hobart to transform perceptions about a place and get people to visit.
The Premier today instead focused on increasing Tasmania's exports, meeting with industry leaders to put together the state's first 7-year trade strategy.
There's a cohesive brand and a focus between trade and tourism. They're absolutely linked, and the stronger, the tighter we can bring that link, the more effective we're going to be as a state.
I think it's important that we sharpen our focus on what government can do to support the export sector.
Monique Dadsen, Southern Cross News.
The State Emergency Service is on standby tonight as a low-pressure weather event hits Tasmania. Forecasters say the system has been difficult to predict, but could lead to flash flooding and damaging winds. For more on this story, our reporter Michael Breen joins us now live. Michael, good evening. What areas are most at risk?
Well, Jo, the most significant rainfalls are affecting the southeast, east and central parts of the state tonight. The heavy falls are expected to continue through tomorrow. But as well as the rain, the system is also bringing severe winds. They're expected to top 60 kilometres an hour, which may not be the strongest, but they're coming from a southeasterly direction, which is unusual. Authorities say those conditions could lead to unexpected damage and tree falls.
The difference is that it's coming from an unusual direction. So the Tasmania is used to getting battered by the westerly flow all the time. This is coming from the south-southeast, and so it might actually have more significant damage as a result of the unusual direction.
When we get an opposing wind in combination with wet soil, we have incidences of trees coming down. So at this point in monitoring the situation, we have crews available. Through our associations with the municipal councils, our coordinators have been notified, our units have been notified of the emerging situation. They're ready.
For storm assistance, you can call the SES, or if the situation is life-threatening, 000. You can also keep track of the latest advice on the TasAlert website. Now, as always, authorities are reminding people to stay out of floodwaters and drive to the conditions. And Jo, probably stay inside if you can.
Certainly good advice. Thank you very much for that. Michael Breen joining us there. Tasmania Police has charged a woman with arson after a fire destroyed a public housing unit in Invermay on Tuesday. The 53-year-old will appear in an out-of-hours sitting in the Burnie Magistrates Court. The property was valued at approximately $250,000. Police believe inexperience may have contributed to a crash on the West Tamar Highway just outside Launceston last night. A male motorcyclist came off his bike soon after 8 o'clock and was taken to the Launceston General Hospital. The rider sustained non-life-threatening injuries. The future of Tasmania's North Esk railway line should be known within coming weeks. One group has been pushing for the old train line to be ripped up and made into a cycling rail trail, while another is charging full steam ahead to restore the line for a heritage tourist train.
For months, volunteers have been working to get this old tourist train back on the tracks.
I know of people who'd be prepared to pay $1,000 a day just to ride on this train.
Every Saturday, dozens of community members get on board, spending hours bringing this carriage up to rail standards.
We're making the windows so that we can have them as opening windows. We've got one gentleman who's working inside the train and replacing the timber inside. We're about to get the wheels crack tested to make sure they're safe.
Some of the bolts and nuts haven't been undone for 50 or 60 years, but we are getting them undone.
But on the other side of the track, the Dorset Council wants the unused line to be a cycling rail trail.
It's not going to be a silver bullet or anything like that, but it'll bring just a regular flow of tourists into the area, especially during the warmer months.
The rail line runs from near Launceston to Scottsdale. Its fate now in the hands of State Treasury. The department is looking at the feasibility of each proposal to determine the best way forward. It's hoped an answer will be known within weeks. The council says it's willing to compromise.
If the train service went to Lilydale and we could pick up the bike trail from Lilydale through to Scottsdale, yes, we could live with that.
The Heritage Rail Group isn't.
Not really, because the existing rail trail's sort of catering for that sort of those sort of people.
French are allowed out on the main line, freight lines in France every Sunday. The Japanese do the same, and we in Australia should be catering for that type of tourist.
The end of the line for a long stalemate now getting much closer. Monika Dadson at Southern Cross News.
The country's oldest competitive rower has joined hundreds of masters at Lake Barrington for the National Championships. The 92-year-old took up the sport in his 60s and now sets an example for up-and-comers.
The Rowers' Paradise of Lake Barrington, hosting 900 competitors on these glistening waters for the National Masters titles. And the veteran of the veterans is Ted James. The 92-year-old is as tough as they come. Despite being diagnosed with cancer, Ted still trains 3 times a week and coaches on his days off.
You should never have a negative feeling, never.
It's the first time Tasmania has hosted the Masters since 2011. Entry numbers have increased considerably from last time, and with more than 300 races taking place, there are plenty of medals on offer.
For me, I have my son and my daughter both rowing as well, so it's something we can all do together, which is great.
Rowing Tasmania hopes Lake Barrington will be earmarked for more major regattas in the future, after volunteers worked around the clock to bring the venue to its picture-perfect standard.
We basically are a volunteer organisation. We've got 35 volunteers on site working with us this weekend.
The event runs until Sunday. Tom Johnson, Southern Cross News.
Now let's take a look at the day's business and finance news. Thanks to Tasplan, your local super fund. The Australian share market has closed higher as the mining and energy sectors were boosted by rising prices for commodities and oil. The ASX 200 index has risen by 10.7 points. A short time ago, the Australian dollar was trading at 74.65 US cents and 107.93 New Zealand cents.
Tasmanian Tigers and Raw squads will see a focus on local talent for the upcoming domestic season, with the lists officially released today. And with the inclusion of some big-name recruits, selectors are adamant they've got the balance just right.
A mix of fresh and familiar faces, with stalwarts George Bailey, Alex Doolan, James Faulkner and Matthew Wade making the cut, supported by a strong contingent of up-and-comers in Ben McDermott, Sam Rainbird, Caleb Jewell, Riley Meredith and Tom Rogers, while young Tasmanian spinner Jared Freeman has been rewarded for his consistency in 2017, earning himself a rookie contract.
Really starting to develop our guys in our pathway. The fact that we've got 5 Tasmanians that have either been promoted off the rookie list or come back on the contract or onto the rookie list, so that's pretty exciting for us.
Making the switch from New South Wales, young quick Gurinder Sandhu is set to add some serious firepower to the group.
He's played a little bit of cricket for Australia and he's played 30-odd first-class games at only the young age of 24. So, you know, we're really excited for his long-term opportunities here in Tasmania.
Cameron Boyce, Ben Dunk and Andrew Feckerty failed to earn contracts, but the Tigers coach is confident selectors have laid the right foundations for another solid domestic season.
I've been here for a year and we've only just started the process of getting to where we want to get to, and there's a long road ahead for us, and I'm really excited.
Georgia Redmayne, Aaron Fazackerley, Brooke Hepburn and Corinne Hall returned for the Raw, while Riverside and University Cricket Club stars Emma Mannix-Jeeves and Sasha Maloney make their state debuts, as the side look to rebuild following a disappointing 2017 under new coach Sally-Ann Briggs.
It's really exciting to keep a core group to see what they can do with increased resourcing and better coaching structure. We're putting an extra coach in place as well, so they'll have everything at their disposal this year. And
the sides begin pre-season training in July.
Following a tumultuous few months for Australian cricket, newly named one-day captain Tim Payne says the side is champing at the bit to begin playing again as the squad prepares for next month's ODI series in England. And Payne isn't expecting any sympathy from the Poms regarding the ball tampering scandal in South Africa.
I think the English are going to be sort of basking in the glory of what's happened. So, yeah, it's going to be different. But having said that, playing in England there's always, the crowds and the media are always coming at us with something.
The Tasmanian is expected to be given the job as wicketkeeper for the series, which begins on June 13. Lauderdale will be out for redemption at Utah's Stadium this weekend in the highly anticipated grand final rematch with North Launceston. While the Tigers are desperate to show their recent thumping at the hands of the Blues was nothing more than a one-off slip-up.
The Bombers' stand-in coach insists his side have moved on since last year's grand final heartache, but today's press conference suggested otherwise.
There certainly was a bit of propaganda from my point of view after the grand final, and look, we've looked through the footage as coaches and I'm still trying to see anything in that grand final that resembles thuggery, where you could actually say someone deliberately went out and did anything.
Coming off a 42-point win over North Hobart, Brown says there were no pats on the back post-match.
I thought we set ourselves up to finish the game off, but our last quarter was pretty horrific.
Well, there was no sugarcoating the Tigers' performance against the Blues last weekend for the Kingborough coach.
Lonnie pulled our pants down, really. You know, we couldn't take their game off them at any stage, and they took ours off us nearly for the whole 120 minutes.
Bob Maller is adamant it was a one-off and says Clarence should expect them to come out firing at the Twin Ovals on Saturday.
I think it'll come down to the midfield battle, especially when you look at the weather and the forecast of the next couple of days. You know, we might have to select Donald Duck because we could be playing in a pond.
And after handing the Pies their first loss of the season, Jeremy WEBBERLEY and his men will be out to prove it was no fluke, counting on their fresh faces to continue stepping up in the absence of several injured stars.
We think we're a really good team, but we have to make sure that we bring that effort and endeavour, don't we, every week? And that's going to be pivotal this week.
The Arrows will be gunning to get back on the winners list in Hobart tomorrow night following 2 straight losses, taking on a side who they've had the better of the past 2 state netball league seasons in the Kingston Blues.
We need to take out a bit more consistency for 4 quarters across the court for Arrows. We have moments of brilliance and you just think we can do that for 4 quarters, so we just need to make sure our consistency's there.
We haven't got too close against Arrows in the past couple of years. I think the closest we've got is 23 goals, so it will be a big task for us.
In the other round 7 matchups, OHA are up against Cripps. Devon take on Cavaliers with the Northern Hawks to battle Burnie.
Good evening. We've had some change in the weather, haven't we? Some temperatures up to 7 below average today. Hobart just 11, Launceston 12, Burnie and Devonport along with Wynyard recorded our state's high of just 15 degrees. Buckland had the top rainfall to 3 p.m. with 39 millimetres, Little Swanport 33. Smithton 14 degrees, Flinders Island and Lowhead 13, King Island and St Helens 12 today, Strawn 11, Lyawini off a low base of -2 made it all the way up to 3 degrees today. There is a thick band of cloud covering the state, as we all know, especially the southeast, and that spirals around a low which is sitting off the southeast as well. Behind that system we have a very cold pool of air linked to a southerly airflow over South Australia and Victoria, but the rest of the nation without much action today. The complex low with 2 centres will be off our northeast tomorrow. A large high over the Bight with a trough along the WA coast completes the picture. Now the winds, they're starting to blow southeast to southerly at 25 to 35 knots and reaching up to 40 knots over the northwest and northeast, swells to 4.5 metres. A bit to get through here as well, a severe weather warning for most of the state, damaging winds and flash flooding expected in the east and southeast. A strong wind warning from Stanley to the top of Flinders Island and a small craft wind alert for the lakes. We also have a minor flood warning for the Huon River, a flood watch for eastern rivers as well. And a warning to sheep graziers for the central and east, along with a road weather alert for the east. For tomorrow, Hobart can expect rain, heavy falls and plenty of wind. 13 the top, 13 for Huonville, same forecast for Campania, 13 the temperature. Launceston, rain and wind, 15, 16 for Devonport. Georgetown, showers and 16 degrees. For Burnie, a morning shower clearing, 16 the top, just 14 for Strawn and 16 for Wynyard with morning showers. But all the action, as we mentioned, in the east, rain, possible heavy falls and windy for St Helens, 15, 14 for Swansea and 13 for Port Arthur. On to Saturday, a few showers over the east, south and southwest, fine but windy elsewhere. A few light coastal showers over the south and east on Sunday, but a sunny 16 in Burnie, and conditions improving on Monday with fine sunny weather apart from a shower for the west and far south. Sunny and 30 in Perth tomorrow, a possible shower forecast for Adelaide. Very windy in Melbourne with rain periods. Rain for Canberra as well, fine but cloudy in Sydney. Brisbane a fine and sunny 23. And as we see the temperatures dropping and the rain falling, if you need assistance tomorrow, 1325 500 is the State Emergency Service. Let's hope it's not needed, Jo.
Yes, let's hope so, Murph. Thank you very much for that. That's all from us for now. Good night.